Service your existing car with us right now,
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.
Well, the exam results came out today. Good luck, everybody. Hope you did well. And a big result for Rangers is what's needed at the examination tonight. It's the £40 million game. Rangers against Union Saint-Gilloise of Belgium, 2-0 last week. And they're a more than decent team, but Rangers surely could do it tonight. We're going to get predictions of John and Stephen in a few moments. And just looking over the weekend, well, you know the story. Aberdeen a 4-1 win against St Mirren. Motherwell losing at home to St Johnstone. Stevie May right at the end. Rangers 2, Kilmarnock 0, Morelos and Cholak. And Ross County 1, Celtic 3, Kyogo, Abada and Jens for Celtic. Then on Sunday, 12 o'clock. Well, we heard the news, I heard it on Go Radio News, that Martin Boyle was back from Saudi. He signed. He had some pasta, didn't he, on Saturday night, and got the call, hey, you could be playing at some point tomorrow. And my goodness, Lauren Shanklin got the goal for Hearts.
He did.
And then it was written in the stars, John. Martin Boyle made it 1-1. And then Livy getting their first points, winning 1-0 at Dundee United. One of the big questions is, who's going to be the new manager of Motherwell? Stephen, it's your old club. You've played so many times with distinction. You've coached there as well. You must be worried about them.
I am, I have to say, you know, particularly the performances of the two games against Sligo. I just think the level of performance was quite worrying. And it's difficult when Stevie Hamill came in, he only had probably one training session with them ahead of St Mirren. It worked, they won the game. Actually, St Mirren played really well in the game. They probably should have lost it. However,
Liam Kelly.
Listen, sometimes that's what you do in football, Paul. You find a way to win. Whereas on Saturday against St Johnstone, they found a way to lose. They get themselves level. You shouldn't really be losing the game from that situation so deep into the game. But just going by media speculation, having a look today, I think Stevie Hamill will have been interviewed at some stage. I think Simo Valakari, who I actually played with way back in the late 90s, has been linked and said he has an interview tomorrow. That's just what someone's put out. And they said there's one other interviewee. So there's three people in the running. Now, Simo Valakari was interviewed, I think, just before when Stephen Robinson got the job, which would have been 2018 possibly. So they must have liked what they heard if they're going to invite him back for a second interview. So that would tell you they think that he would, be clearly in the thoughts of the board. I think if Stevie Hamill had won at the weekend, it probably would have guaranteed him the job. It seems a bit harsh, but that's sometimes how football works. So it'll be interesting to see what path they take. But whoever comes in, I think they need a little bit of restructure. They probably could do with signing a few players. They need a little bit of pace. They need some wingers. I think Jake Carroll's out for a while, the left back. Nathan McGinley, left back's out for a while, so they probably need a left back. Whether the club have the budget for all that. However, if the new manager comes in, you'd imagine they would want some sort of finance to go and spend. But certainly they need some players, and normally at this stage of the season there's not many left, so you'd imagine it would be some loans. So I'm a little bit worried, but hopefully they can get themselves sorted out.
No chance of a Paul Lambert coming? Somebody you know well, John. Stephen, what do you think?
Well, I think was pulling up one of the papers saying he would take it.
Yeah, he would.
Again, he wouldn't interview.
He would speak to them.
He would speak to them. So he could be the other one that they're potentially speaking to. Whether Paul has ambitions of going back to England or not, or whether the budget or the playing staff would interest him. But I mean, if Motherwell could get that over the line, there's no doubt that'd be a coup. Because
look what Kilmarnock did, getting Derek McInnes. I remember saying, "What about Derek McInnes for Kilmarnock?" People said, "No, it would be too much money or whatever." And then 2 weeks later, he was the manager. They got promotion. John, what about Lambo? Could you see Paul Lambert, European Cup medalist?
I think Stephen made a good point. If he's looking to come back up the road, I lived quite near Paul out in Houston, where we lived. Paul and Monica, a lovely family. I was really close to Lambo, obviously then, and we lost a bit of touch when he went and managed Villa and Norwich and Wickham. He'd had many different clubs. He started at Livingston.
He did indeed, yeah.
Started at Livingston.
I remember.
So I don't know. I don't know what Paul's thinking. He said that he would look at it, and whether or not Motherwell maybe want to appoint from within. Maybe they want to give Hamill a little go. Maybe they're thinking, well, do you know what? We're one of these clubs who give players like Hamill an opportunity, because a lot of the times they get overlooked and they go for the bigger name and this and the other. I think it would be a positive sign if they were to give it to Hamill.
I think the hard thing is that there's no standout candidate this year for relegation. It probably possibly wasn't last year until Dundee hit the bad run. So it's so close. And I think out with Rangers and Celtic, possibly, maybe I could be wrong, Motherwell certainly one of the longest, most established clubs in top flight with regards consecutive years. So that's always the fear for Motherwell. Not that they look beyond 10th place, but they think 10th place, stay in the division, see where we can go after that. Of course, managers and players look beyond that. So there is a fear when you look at the squad that other teams are better at this moment in time than Paul. So the point an inexperienced manager could be another risk.
Because they were third, weren't they? Sorry, just 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But it doesn't
absolutely.
always work if you get experience either, by the way.
What about the other scorelines then? So who are we worried about? Aberdeen 4-1. Jim Goodwin, getting his signings in. Majowski with 2 goals again at the weekend. So he's the top scorer. Leighton Clarkson on loan.
See his goal?
Yeah, I saw it.
Absolutely. That was a
Screamer.
belter. Absolute belter.
So for the Dons, it's good, but we're not Radio Aberdeen. We're Radio Glasgow and the West. Here we go. St Mirren, are you a wee bit worried about Stephen Robinson and Saints, John? Because it's a good club, almost top 6 2 years ago.
Well, we said, didn't we, last season that Stephen Robinson going into St Mirren on the back of, where did he leave? Did he leave Fleetwood? Did he? Morecambe last season. But that's a thumping result, isn't it? That's a thumping defeat up at Aberdeen. Aberdeen, brilliant for Jim Goodwin. That's exactly what he would have wanted. Get all the fans on side. A couple of his new signings as well, played ever so well. I'd like to give a mention to Davy Martindale at Livingston, by the way.
I'm going to come to that, yeah.
Oh, what a result that is! Dundee United in mine and Craig's top 6, but it's a type of league, isn't it? The Scottish Premiership, where anybody can turn anybody over on any given day. Anybody can beat them. Livingston took the lead, 1-0 up against Rangers, in the first game of the season. Absolutely outstanding. Rangers in the second half were much better. They made a couple of changes and they ran out, really good winners. And then to go to Dundee United after having that sucker punch, having played so well in the first half, and to go and win against Jack Ross's well fancied.
Sure.
They play AZ Alkmaar, by the way, this Thursday night in Europe. So what a win that was.
On Livy, what do you think of Joel Nubley?
Excellent. Yeah. I think he ran Rangers ragged. I think he'll be a problem for lots of defences. But it's like anything, Paul. You've got to play to his strengths. Play into him. Play down the sides where he can hold defenders off. Use him as a wall, if you like. Midfielders. Play around the corner so he can hold players off and bring play. He's got good feet. I loved his finish, by the way, the lob in the first half. That was great skill for a big man. And it's like everything else. You can't leave him isolated. You've got to keep him in the game. In the game against Rangers, he was constantly involved. I think Rangers had two or three players booked because they couldn't deal with him. He was too big, he was too strong. So they've got to keep playing into him, to get the best out of that big centre forward that he's got.
On that though, just thinking of those bookings, that's almost like how I used to have to play against John. That if you think you try and go and win the first ball, he spins you and rolls you, and then you're the wrong side. Right. So you almost have to try and let them know you're about, but don't get too tight. Allow them to take their first touch. If he opens himself up, then you can try and nick it. If he lays it back, there's nothing you can do. But I just felt watching the Rangers centre-halves against Nubley, they were continually trying to win the first ball. They were trying to outmuscle them. Sometimes you got to swallow your pride and say, I can't do it. I've got to try and affect the second one, or when the cross comes in, trying to affect that rather than always trying to affect the first ball. So that's why they ended up getting booked. But there's no doubt Nubley, I watched him for our booth a couple of times last year, and certainly he's got a little bit about him. I liked him.
So
he'll be a handful.
Yep. Livy top 6 for you, Stephen? John thinks they could well be.
I didn't put them in my top 6.
Yep.
I think the ones that was Rangers and Celtic naturally. Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United, that was going to be the top 6 for me. But no doubt the likes of Livingston knocking on the door. People continue to write them off, put them down. But when you see the spirit they had against Rangers, first of all, and then the spirit they had last Saturday against Sunday against Dundee United, then they'll fancy themselves.
Yeah, I still think, Livy could go the next 2 games and lose both. It's that type of league. Yeah. I still fancy Dundee United and Jack Ross to finish in the top 6, although they got beat last weekend, which is a poor result for them. But now they've got another big game against Alkmaar Thursday. Then they pick themselves up for that one. go again. You know, these teams now, you've got games coming thick and fast, you know, and different challenges, players wanting to get into the team. The boy Newblay coming in for Livingston, you know, all of a sudden I hear the commentators say, I think it was it you, Craig, that commentated on the game? I can't think who it was. Somebody said, oh, could he, I'm not quite, a little bit surprised he wasn't sort of caught the eye of a, you know, of somebody.
A bigger club.
Maybe. But again, he's been at Arbroath. Now it's a step up to the Premiership, but he looked to step up again now.
Do you know what's great to see? It was another sellout at Tannadice on Thursday night. The
Atmosphere's-
crowds are good, aren't they? With Scottish
I
football.
think they have been good.
On
They
the
have
up,
been.
isn't it?
They have been. It's and saying that it's as good as it is, I still look at Rangers and Celtic and think over the summer the gap's got wider. If it's
Between
possible,
them and the others.
Yeah, I can see them, Rangers and Celtic, both getting into the 90s in points.
Right.
I don't think many teams will
We'll
take
take
points
anything.
off them.
It's
I
going
just
to come
think,
down to the four big
you know,
ones.
you only have to
isn't
look
it?
at both squads.
Sure.
And, you know, we spoke earlier about them having two good players for each position. You look at Dundee United, you know, Jack made a few changes for the weekend after beating Alkmaar, and they lose the game. You know, so out with probably 12, 13, 14 players max.
Doesn't have the
For
depth.
any other club, not many have the depth.
Staying on the other clubs then, so Hearts and Hibs. Were you a wee bit surprised, John, that because Hearts kind of dominated, didn't they? But it just shows you hang in there and then
Get that
written in the
second goal.
stars.
You've got to get that second goal for as much pressure as Hearts had.
What did you think of Lawrence Shanklin?
I liked him at Dundee United before he left. He left for $1 million, didn't he? Which is decent money, really, for Dundee United at the time. Now he's come back. He's back in the Scottish Premiership.
He looks fit.
Banging them in for Hearts. Listen, you don't just lose the knack of scoring goals. If you're a natural goal scorer and you've scored goals previously, you'll get goals. It's just a case of getting service and players playing into you. So he's a big signing for Hearts alongside, you know, like Barry Mackay, who also is very good.
Man of the match, wasn't he?
Yeah, very skillful. I've watched Barry Mackay all his career when he was at Swansea, Rangers, Forest, much travelled. But I actually thought Hearts would, when they were 1-0 up, I thought that's it. They'll go on and win the game. But as you say, Martin Boyle, written in the stars.
It was. I'm just going to throw this in. It's come out from Rangers this evening. They've confirmed the departure of Jack Simpson. He's gone off to Cardiff City in the Championship. It's a permanent deal, an undisclosed fee. Rangers say he leaves with the very best wishes of everyone. Talented player, but just, you know,
It just
can't
didn't work.
break through. Yep.
Sometimes you get there and the quality of player. Calvin Bassey was probably signed as a left back, ended up being a left centre half, which would have, you know, closed one of the spaces where he potentially could have played. Leon Balogun was there last season. Connor Golson was a mainstay. So he did find it hard to get in. And when he did come in, Paul, if it's been 3 months since you've last played, you know, it's hard to hit the ground running. So I think it's certainly the best move for both parties.
It's a long time to be out, isn't it? St Johnstone, that was a lifeline for them at the weekend. I know it was really early in the season, but they were on the slide last season. But it was good to get the win for them. Stevie May.
It was interesting how the game went because St Johnstone went a goal up. Then Graham Carey equalised in the 91st minute. And then Stevie May popped up with the winner away from home for St Johnstone. Brilliant result for Callum Davidson. Again, his first win on the board. Lots of people, myself and Craig, thought last week that St Johnstone might struggle again. But it's a great start. And all he can go and do is win games.
Is.
A great start for Callum.
Go Radio Football Show with Macklin Motors. Here is the breaking news. The Rangers line up for the match tonight. John McLaughlin in goals, of course. Captain James Tavernier, John Lundstrom, Connor Goldson, Antonio Cholak. Tom Lawrence is playing. Ryan Kent is playing. James Sands, Borna Barisic, Scott Arfield, and Malik Tillman. That's the starting 11 for Rangers. So McLaughlin, Tavernier, Lundstrom, Goldson, Cholak. I'm just giving you them as the numbers come out. Lawrence, Kent, Sands, Barisic, Arfield, and Tillman. So Stephen,
The team you asked me about. From
Yep.
the team you asked me about, I think the only difference is Steve Davis isn't playing and Scott Arfield is.
You're right. You got it absolutely right.
I think that was
Did you say Morales will start?
No.
Oh, you said
I
you
said
would
I would have
start
started
him.
him, but I think the manager would have went with Cholak, and after listening to the
I
manager's
think I
language,
got it
don't know.
right as well with Stephen Davis not playing.
On the bench, you did. Alan McGregor, obviously, the goalkeeper, and Bobby McCrory, Ridvan Yilmaz, Jack Davis, that's Steve Davis, Matondo, Kamara, Morelos, Wright, Davies, Ben Davies, and Fashion Sakala. King is on the bench as well, so that's a strong bench,
Yeah, he's
isn't
got
it?
plenty of firepower if it is sort of if it doesn't start right for Rangers.
With Sakala and Wright as well, you know.
So that's 3 new signings to start, is that right? Malik Tillman?
Yep. Tillman is in there. Cholak is in, and Lawrence.
And Lawrence is the
You like the look of Lawrence? Yeah. Cracked the bar the other day, didn't he?
It's probably trying to work out where his best position is.
Yeah. What do you think?
I always thought he would have probably been more preferred as a number 10, but Malik Tillman has a bit more kind of flair, he's a bit more silky, isn't he? Whereas Lawrence has got that strong running power. And he almost, we spoke earlier on about him potentially replacing Joe Rebo, the same kind of attributes as Joe Rebo. And Joe Rebo was the same. He could play wide in the right, he could play wide in the left, he could play as a number 10, he played as a centre forward. I don't imagine Tom Lawrence will play as a centre forward, but certainly having that versatility, Paul, which means you can change in game if you have to, is a huge strength for the Rangers manager.
Shall we give you the Union SG team, because we kind of know them now, having watched it last week? Morrison goals, Naukup, Amane, Andigra, Venzier, he got the goal, the second goal. Burgess, of course, Christopher Burgess, we know. Tuma, who got the opening goal for them, the captain. Leinen, Sykes, Van der Heyden, and Lapoussin. So that's the lineup from Union SG against Rangers. Rangers, McLaughlin, Tavernier, Lundstrom, Goldson, Cholak, and Lawrence, Kent, Sands, Barisic, Arfield, and Tillman. So you got it right. People, I think not many people would have got that. After last week, you thought he might make some changes.
Well, Stephen Davis,
Barisic,
I just think Barisic being the big game player, as in big game, he's played in it before, Paul. He knows the atmosphere, he knows how to play the role. He's got good experience of it, good memories of it, and I think that you chip into players' memories sometimes, and you put them into a game situation when they've been there before. He knows what it's all about. Him and Tavernier, time after time last season, played so high, played so wide. It'll just be interesting to see how high their defensive line is. Because with Bassey, you could play really high, you could be overly aggressive. I just wondered tonight with Jamie Sands, against two centre forwards, would Giovanni Van Bronckhorst trust him enough to go deep into the opposition's half and make tackles if he has to? It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
We're going to get some reaction to that, to the team, some Rangers fans heading for the game. That's coming next.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
Champions League qualifier. It's the home leg tonight. Rangers 2 down from the first leg. But if 3 goals tonight could be enough. It could be 4-1, Barry Ferguson said. Stephen Craigan, what do you reckon it's going to be, scoreline tonight?
I think it'll go to extra time. I just think it will be like a Scottish Premiership game for Rangers. I don't imagine Union are going to come out and attack and get after the game. They'll be quite happy to sit deep in a back 5 with 3 midfield players and try and play in the counter-attack. If Rangers leave themselves exposed and there's 2 full-backs are high, they'll throw it down the side and try and catch Jamie Sands and Connor Goldson out. So as much as it's all about Rangers attacking, I always think as a defender, when the game's going forward, you've got to switch on. You've got to be waiting for the counter-attack. You've got to be aware where the gaps are, Paul, and where you can plug them. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to extra time, and I think Rangers will win after extra time.
John Hartson. John, what do you reckon?
I think Rangers are more than capable of winning the game this evening. I think they've done that many times. They've been over the course last season in particular, getting to the final of the Europa League. I think that will only happen if they're watertight defensively. Because they scored 2 goals. Union SG scored 2 goals against Rangers last week in this particular first leg of this game, and they could have scored more. So they will need to tighten up defensively. I have no issues with Rangers going forward. The likes of Lawrence, Cholak and Kent, they're all capable of creating, scoring. The Rangers can go through, but if they concede goals, it'll be a very difficult night for them.
Hugh's on the line. Hugh, we're going to speak about Motherwell in a second or two. Welcome to the programme. What are you thinking about Rangers tonight?
Good evening. I've not been on since last season, but I actually hope they do it. For the main reason is it's for Scotland as well, especially coefficient. Obviously disappointed with what happened to Mull against Sligo, but I'll
come to that in a minute. Yeah, we'll come back to that.
I'll put that to one side. Yeah. But yeah, I actually think Rangers will do it. As you obviously spoke about previously, the last season they were away from home. They were down. They didn't get the results. At home they done it, and I just think the fans will just pull them through tonight. I think that's what the fans will be there. And they've all got a goal in the first half. It's just how they react to that and how obviously the other team reacted. So
you take that one. If Rangers score in the first half, John, then you get at half time. Just one more in the next 45.
You're crying out for a goal. You're a Rangers fan. Come on, let's get 1-0 up. Let's really kick on. Let's just start on the front foot. Let's fly out to the traps. Let's get the first goal, and then that'll give everybody a lift. The crowd, everyone, the players will feel more confident about themselves. Everybody wants to get on the ball, and then they're in prime position then to go on and win the game. They have to defend properly from set pieces, all these type of things, and that's my only worry. I agree with you. It'd be fantastic for the coefficient. Manchester Celtic and Rangers both in the Champions League. Great for Scottish football, but I also think as well tonight. They've got to do the right things, and as Craig's alluded to earlier, they can't keep going back to the well thinking that they can lose away games and then turn it around. You cannot keep gambling on that type of thing to happen. So I hope they go through tonight. I hope they play very well, but it'd be a tough game.
And will Morelos come on? You wonder if that's written in the stars.
Well, he will at some stage. There's no doubt
Gets
about
his
it.
goal.
There's no doubt about it that, as I said earlier, it could be written in the stars for him to come on late in the game if it's 2-0 to Rangers, or come on and get the winner in extra time. But if Rangers are chasing goals at any stage, he's the first guy you'll turn to. You look to get him onto the pitch. So he'll be chomping at the bit. He's got the boost from coming on at the weekend and scoring his goal. He'll be wanting to get himself on. And now the pressure's over to Antonio Cholak, because if supporters know Morelos is there, he knows Morelos is there sitting behind him, so he has to go and produce the goods. But we done it this time last season, probably not the same month. I think it was probably July last month. He got himself 2 goals for Malmo against Rangers, so certainly they would take 2 goals from him tonight.
As a defender, would you be worried about their captain Teddy Tuma? He looked a more than decent player.
Yeah, listen, you don't finish top of your league in a normal season. Of course, I think they do playoffs, and that's how Club Brugge end up
in a normal league they would have won it.
Well, they would have, but they buy into that before the season starts. So you don't end up in a Champions League third round game without being good and having good players. So naturally they are decent, but I think Rangers' focus has to be on what they do tonight, how they handle the ball, how they defend. Exactly what John said. But big night, but no doubt they can do it.
Who?
Yes, mate.
How's your golf?
Not bad. I'm still trying to arrange that game with you in Big Rab.
Yeah.
We match, mate. I'm actually just getting into my taekwondo just now to see Mr. Condi. So
right,
okay.
You two can sort out
you
your
got swing still, head slow, Hugh. That's where you're going wrong, pal.
Hugh, so there was 7,500 a few weeks ago. Great expectations. Motherwell back in Europe. I was at the match. It was brilliant up until kick-off time. So what do you want to say about your beloved Motherwell?
I said it earlier on at the beginning of January, February. The way Graham Alexander set up the team, it was all wrong, because the actual tactics he used was pass the ball along the back, out to the side, back in, then lump it up the park. He was missing the midfield out. And I did hear earlier on that obviously Stephen O'Donnell had an argument with him, and now it's obviously eventually came out that he did have a disagreement with him. That's why he was dropped. And even O'Donnell came out there, I think it was a couple of days ago, and had his interview and says we need players.
Yeah.
The fans can see we needed players. Graham Alexander says no, we're okay. We're not okay. If Van Veen gets injured, there's no other striker going to score goals for us. Because I don't believe Joe Efford is the player that we really need, or Shields. Don't get me wrong, Shields will run all day for you, and he will run through a big wall for you. You do need somebody to do that, but you also need somebody that's going to bang the ball in the back of the net. And I think that's what we're really lacking. I honestly think we're probably lacking 4 or 5 players easily, without even looking elsewhere. 4 or 5 players, and that's a worry. We're only 2 or 3 weeks to go in the transfer window, and we don't have a manager in. And I think Graham Alexander has left the team extremely poor, which is more disappointing that the club and the board has allowed that to happen, knowing the situation we were in.
Hugh, I think a lot of fans could see that towards the end of the season, that they needed fresh bodies in. They needed a little bit of pace in wide areas. They needed a couple of wingers. Graham Alexander naturally obviously decided he didn't want to play with out-and-out wingers. He wanted to play with inverted forward players, hence the reason that's where Connor Shields and Joe Efford plays, or Josh Morris, who he signed. So it's clear to see that if a new manager comes in and wants to play with width and pace, they're going to need bodies in that area. Jake Carroll's out for a while, Nathan McGinley's out for a while, so as I said earlier, they're going to need a left back as well, and possibly another centre half to play alongside Ricky Lamy. But that's probably not going to come, because they've got Oyala, they've got Sondre Johansson, and they've got Bevis Mugabe there. So there certainly is players needed. And the reason why I think yourself and a lot of the fans got frustrated was they thought that would happen over the summer, and it didn't.
Yeah, well, I've heard that Oyala's on his way out. I did hear that apparently he's went to the board and asked the board for an exit. So, and I'm not surprised because he's not getting his game time. Mugabe at this moment in time, I don't know what's happened to him. I think that when he gets sent off after 2 minutes against the Hibs game, he's not been the same player. He's missed passing against St Johnstone. He passed the ball out the park. The player's five yards away from him, and it's not like him. So he's needing taken out a game or two just to settle him down again. And Ricky Lammy's definitely going to be a mainstay. Wins everything, and even in the Sligo game, the guy that used to play with Falkirk and that,
Ian Keena,
obviously, he just bullied Mugabe. He tried it on Ricky Lammy, and Ricky Lammy just took a hold of him, knocked it to one side. This is my ball. Went over at Mugabe, and that's how they obviously got the goal out of it, because he got in his head, and that's an issue for me.
So Hugh, there's no easy solution. What would you do though? If you were Jim McMahon, the chairman, or Alan Burrows, the chief exec, what would you do? It's got to be a limited budget, but the clock's ticking. Who's your manager?
Well, actually, quite funny because I heard that Neil Lennon had his name in for it. So
I'd be very surprised.
I would be very surprised because I spoke to him obviously the golf day, and he's loving it where he is at the minute. And good luck to him. He's a great guy. So I really wish him luck over there. But I heard he was in. Obviously, we know Valakari's in for it, Simo, and apparently Kevin Thompson's meant to be his name in the hat as well. Along with
what? There's a man sitting alongside me, and it's not Paul Cooney.
Paul's never managed in his life.
And he's a legend. He's a legend at Motherwell.
Hamilton Accies, maybe.
He knows the blueprint.
I've been there, John. No, it's not something that floats my boat, if I'm honest.
Stephen doesn't want to do that. We've asked you before.
Would you want Stephen Craigan as manager of your football club? Very educated, knows his football, knows the club inside out.
John, I've had obviously a conversation with you about who was the defenders and that you came up against. And Craig is one of my heroes. We've been down to Soccer AM, and
right.
Aldo the kit man, who you know very well.
Yeah.
I actually wore Craig's kit. Aldo gave me it. He said, you. So I had his top on, I had his shorts on. I didn't have his boxers on. That was different.
You don't fancy Craig's, no.
So Craig's is one of my heroes, even though it cost me a lot of money.
Sure, but he doesn't want to do it. Who would you choose? Hugh, you're a huge Motherwell fan.
I choose?
Yeah.
Personally, I want Duncan Ferguson and Faddy.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I want as 1 and 2. The reason being is if you're getting in 1-0 down against Sligo at home, do you want to get into the doors and see Duncan Ferguson standing there? I don't think you do. So I think we need somebody with it. We've had Rob in there. I loved Rob, but I think Rob done the right thing. Took a step back because it was his time to go.
Yeah.
And I hated seeing him going because I did love Rob. He got us to 2 finals, playing great. He did a good team there, a good nucleus as a team. But again, everybody has a shelf life, and it was really sad to see Rob go. But I would love to have a manager who's a lot stronger, who's forceful on the players, because you may get more out of them. The players at the minute, I think the players have to take a hit. They've got to put their hands up and say, look, we've not done as well as we could have. But again, is that down to tactics, that how he's playing the game? Because Slattery's definitely our best midfielder. I know he was banned for the first 2 games and that, but he's definitely our best midfielder without a shadow of doubt. And I honestly think the midfield should be built around him. Probably a little Cornelius in here. Even Maguire at the minute isn't on his game. I think he needs to get brought down, give him a couple of games rest. But definitely put Cornelius in there because he's a little terrier like Alan Campbell used to be. And that's what we're really missing, that midfield again. We're missing not a hard man, but somebody go and win the challenge for you, knock it onto a player, and definitely width. I mean, we always had with the time when we were in the playoff against Rangers. And you go and look at the width we had. That Johnston one side, Ainsworth another side. They were flying wingers, and that's what really won us. So that's what I would like. I would like Duncan Ferguson and Faddy. That's my 1 and 2.
Hugh, thanks a lot for calling in. We'll speak to you soon.
Best of luck, mate.
Cheers.
See you soon, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hugh, they're off to his is it karate, did he say?
Yeah.
Earlier on as well.
Taekwondo.
Yeah. Thanks, Hugh. And we'll maybe ask him later his prediction for this weekend.
Taekwondo doesn't help him with his golf screen.
No. It's Aberdeen this weekend for Motherwell. Predictions wise, we've teamed up with our friends at Clyde Bilk Home Improvements, And you can win, this weekend you'll get 100 by coming on, and more than that, 450 on top of that if you get all 6 right. Predictions for the Premiership. Duncan from Rutherglen, he was on the show on Friday. His predictions didn't quite pan out, so we're rolling over an extra £150 into this weekend's games. That means you could get £100 for coming on Friday and 450 on top. That's the jackpot. It's going up every week for guessing the results. So register online now at thisisgo.co.uk. Your chance to join us, predict the scores with Mark Guidi, Barry Ferguson and myself this coming Friday evening. I think he got 3. It's difficult, isn't it?
Predict who's going to win, but never mind the scores.
No, you don't need the scores. We've relented. Home win.
I mean,
win, lose
John
or
said
draw.
it earlier, it's the most unpredictable league. Out with the top 2, it's so unpredictable. And if anybody gets a 6, I think they deserve a few more quid than 600, Paul. Put it that way.
Who's coming third? It'll go up and up. Stay with us, Stephen. It'll go up and up. Is it going to be Hearts, or do you think Aberdeen could challenge
Hearts
them?
For me.
It's going to be
I think
Hearts.
Aberdeen will certainly be much improved from last year. They had to be. You know, if Jim Goodwin had a slow start and he signed a few players and Dave Cormack's rolled the cash out,
he's changed the team again.
Well, considering they brought in $4 million for Calvin Ramsey and $3 million for Lewis Ferguson, then it's about time. But it's about right that they went and spent some money. And so far, they're looking good. Although they haven't had a proper test for me. Going to Celtic Park was tough. They were never going to win the game. But St Mirren had a man sent off. Declan Gallagher sent off. I thought it was a bit harsh. Certainly, possibly a penalty, but not a second yellow card for me. So there'll be tougher tests to come, but they're in a good place.
Celtic was a proper test, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, as in who's going to be challenging for third place?
Yeah, because you don't expect.
Celtic,
I'm not sure.
I didn't expect them to get in from Celtic Park.
John, who's going to come third? Are you thinking Dundee United?
No, I think we all gave our predictions a couple of weeks ago before the first game. I think myself and Craig were on here, and I went Dundee United top 6. So for me, I just think Hearts, they in the ascendancy a little bit, third last season. And Robbie's doing a really good job there, Robbie Nielsen. And they should have won at the weekend. I felt, listen, fair play to Hibs, they hang in there, they got the late equaliser. But I think Hearts are the strongest out of the rest of the pack, take out Celtic and Rangers. So third for me, Hearts.
Still going to come down to the 4 big games, do you reckon, John? The derbies are going to... In other words, Rangers will win most games, maybe all games. Celtic the same.
Possibly, Paul. A lot of the time, the derby games, they don't really decide where the title goes. I think they're huge games to win, but not necessarily affect the league table. I think
it probably did last year, though, did it not?
Yeah,
more
possibly
last year.
Celtic won 2 games and won the title by 6 points.
But I just think what it does to the team psychologically. Like last season, certainly when Celtic won 3-0 at Celtic Park, I think psychologically I'm not sure Rangers were actually, even if they anticipated Celtic to put on a performance like that, I think they were almost shocked. 3-0 at half time, and in previous years Rangers have had some fantastic wins against Celtic, so I'm not sure if they have that much an effect on where the title goes. I think they're more psychological games. They're more momentum shifts. When you play these big games against Rangers, the derby games.
September the 3rd, we will be on, of course, for the game. Stephen, would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I think they might have a bigger effect this year because I said earlier on, I can't see them dropping many points outside playing each other just because the other teams aren't as good as what they've been previously. Your Hearts are reasonably strong. Aberdeen are getting stronger. Hibs and Dundee United, yes. But still, when you look at what Rangers and Celtic have got, and I named Celtic's B team to play in a closed-door game potentially, Paul, when they've got that kind of calibre of international players sitting waiting to come on.
And you could do the same with Rangers, yeah?
Absolutely, you could do, no doubt about it. It's just we're talking about Celtic at that time. But you could do. Rangers could easily put out 2 teams that they would think could finish second or first in the table.
Loads of people in the cars and the buses. We've got some messages coming in at the socials at Go Football Show because it's just over an hour away to kick off. So we'll recap the teams. We've got your predictions. We're going to talk about the big game next.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
An hour away to kick off. It's going to be rocking tonight. John Hartson, Stephen Craig and Paul Cooney on the Go Radio Football Show. We gave you the team news just a little while ago. Stephen, how are Rangers lining up tonight?
I know. It sounds like John McLaughlin and goal, back four of Tavernier, Goldson, Sands and Barisic. I think it's a midfield one of Sitter and John Lundstrom. Who's the other one? Tillman and Arfield as the two higher ones up. Kent off the left, Lawrence off the right, and Morelos is Cholak as the centre forward. And the reason why probably Scott Arfield is in, because he gets goals. Yep. Rangers need goals. They need late runs from midfield. Sometimes if you can't pass your way through a deep press or you can't get enough cross balls in, you need people to run through it. And Scott Arfield is the kind of guy who can arrive in the box. And I think it's his first start of the season. So again, another little curveball thrown in by Giovanni Van Bronckhorst.
The movement that's needed. He showed it against Livy the other week, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, when nobody else was
He's
showing.
Good at that. Yeah. He's good at breaking into the box. He's getting on the end of things. He's very good. He gambles, makes good runs across people.
Here's GVB speaking then about the importance of this and the objective to get to the Champions League proper.
Very important, because you want to stay in the Champions League for the next round as well, to be able to qualify for the group stages. We're in it. First game wasn't the result we wanted. We have a home game tomorrow where we can all change it. My objective and my desire is to still be in Champions League next week.
The desire to be in next week against PSV or Monaco, you can hear it, John. I mean, he's done everything, World Cup finals, Champions League winner. How big, how important for him is it to get this win tonight, John Hartson?
Massive. It's not the be-all and end-all, because he did very well last season, guiding Rangers to the Scottish Cup, beating Celtic in the semi-final, then clinching the final, and also getting to a European final. I think he's more than shown what a talented manager he is, but he will want to achieve Champions League football again if his team can perform for him like they did last season. In particular, these games at Ibrox in the second leg where you've really got to give it everything. They're 2 goals down, so they need an early goal. They need the crowd who were with them all last season during that run to the Europa League final, and they're going to need to put in another fantastic performance. But if Rangers go out, I don't think there'll be serious, criticism, because I think he's got last year. He's got a little bit of
he's got money in the
credit
bank.
in the bank type of thing.
John, you've been in Glasgow long enough.
But I think that would be possibly slightly a little bit harsh, because Paul, on the back end of, look how much joy he gave the fans last season. Look at the run. Look at the teams they beat on that run. Yes, football, there's no sentiment, as they say, but nothing will happen in terms of he won't never lose his job on the back of going out of the.
But there'll be serious discontent, just because when the draw came out and people thought Union, SG, they thought, okay, right, we fancy that. This is his team. He's moulded them, he's trained them, he's brought players in, he's changed the shape round about and changed players round about. So this is his team now.
I think he'll get criticism, but I don't think they'll be widespread.
No, but major disappointment, the fact that they got to the third, third round, and they find themselves
nothing.
That's a negative side.
Happen,
that's a negative side. I think Rangers have enough tonight to go through.
You think they are?
Yeah,
so you reckon extra time?
Extra time. I think we'll go through after extra time, which I'm sure they will all take right now.
And John, you said earlier.
I think if Rangers can keep a clean sheet and score early, then they can win the game. They can go through. But I worry about this Union SG. They showed last week they're a talented group of players, and I think they might score, which then poses a problem for Rangers. John
Lundstrom was saying afterwards that he thought they reacted, they over-celebrated last week. I mean, I suppose it's understandable. Will that have an effect on Rangers? Will they be using that as a further motivation?
When you're chasing down a deficit, you try and use every little bit of motivation you can, Paul. You talk about things, you bring things up, but ultimately, once the whistle goes, that all gets forgot about. That gets you going in the dressing room and gets your warm-up going. But when the whistle goes, you think your focus is on you, your direct opponent, and how you can win the game. I think that the Belgian manager said after, didn't they, that's what they do after every game, win, lose or draw. And I remember I was in Belgrade when Rangers lost 2-1 later on, even through an aggregate. And the Red Star players are over celebrating with the fans, not celebrating, but singing and dancing and cheering. It's obviously just something they do. for the supporters. But listen, if that motivates John Lundstrom and it motivates the team, then so be it.
Sounded a little bit manufactured to me, actually, because it's also a compliment to Rangers, because they're, you know, a much bigger name in football. They hadn't scored in Europe for 50 years. They hadn't been in it. They were, you know, way down the divisions.
Huge result for Union
massive,
SG.
yeah.
You know, massive result for them.
On the bench for Rangers, you both said during the last couple of hours that, you know, Morelos will almost certainly come on at some point. It's when. So the two keepers, McGregor and McCrory, they've got Yilmaz. Some people thought he would start tonight. Ryan Jack, who did last week. Stephen Davis. Barry was adamant that Barry Ferguson would have played Stephen Davis, who was man of the match at the weekend. Rabbi Matondo, Glenn Kamara, you would have had him in. John Hartson tonight from the start. Morelos, we mentioned. Scott Wright, the manager likes him, and of course he scored in the Scottish Cup final. Ben Davies, who came on last week and then didn't play at the weekend. Fashion Sakala and Leon King as well. But a strong bench for Rangers. What are you thinking?
It is. You know, there's enough talent there to come on. Rabbi Matondo, if they're chasing a goal, you know, it's hard to kind of justify bringing on Ryan Jack and Stephen Davis if you're chasing a goal. You know, you're looking for more your attacking sided players who can come on and influence it. Alfredo Morelos, naturally. Scott Wright actually at times has probably made most of an impact for Rangers when he's came off the bench. You know, he was the one player last week when you thought, you know, can make something happen. Even, you know, the Scottish Cup finally come off the bench. Yep. That's when he got his goal from. So, you know, he's got the pace and the trickery to come on. If defences are a bit tired, Rabbi Matondo's another one. So there's enough there, but, you know, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will be hoping he doesn't have to look to his bench too early.
Well, Paul, Rangers are capable of being 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This Union SG, they want to come up against, listen, they play against Anderlecht, Bruges, lots of other big clubs in Belgium. Big competition, obviously, that part of the world. But in terms of the atmosphere, you know, that the Rangers fans create at Ibrox, it's electric, it's a cauldron. You know, and they are capable of being 2-0 up in the first 15 minutes. And then it's a case of managing the game. My point is, tonight, they have to be strong defensively. Keep a clean sheet. Don't let anything in your goal. And I think they're more than capable of scoring the 3 goals that they need tonight. But they have to be defensively in sync and defend and keep a clean sheet.
Have a think. I want to hear your favourite European night at home under the lights. We don't really need the lights tonight, but they will come on, obviously. Sunshine's still out just now. John, what was your biggest European night? And also for you, Craigs, your biggest night at home where you turned it round, maybe in Europe or, you know, maybe in a cup game or whatever. And before that, just some of the headlines. Celtic chasing, apparently they're keen on a 23-year-old Barcelona winger, Alex Collado. Rangers are going to turn off the PA tonight at 7:30 to create that special atmosphere that really we only know in Glasgow. You know, we say that at Rangers and Celtic, but it is pretty unique. But I guess at places like Barcelona there'll be and others, they've got special atmosphere as well, but it is a bit special. Timo Werner, he's gone back to RB Leipzig. Good bit of business for them.
Well, it is, because I said I think they sold him for £50 million and bought him back 2 years later for $25 million.
Good business, that, Craig, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean?
Get that business
which is great. You know, you think, is that possibly the money they're still due from the transfer? Sure. So they might just say, well, we'll wipe that off and you can have them back. So
case closed.
It's certainly good for RB Leipzig.
And John, I want to ask you something. Hugh was on there, big Motherwell fan, knows his thing, and he said Neil Lennon's been whispered. He's obviously manager just now in Cyprus. Tom Rogic apparently going to be going there, but is he being considered for Motherwell? And if so, would he take it?
Well, it all depends if he got his agent to make a phone call to the Motherwell, whoever's organising the interviews and whoever's chief executive. Sometimes, you know, one of the.
That's easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a phone call, isn't it? Yeah. Just to declare an interest. By the way, I look after Neil Lennon. How would he be considered? And then that chief executive goes back to his board and says, you know, this is how. You know, and he draws a short list up. Or sometimes, if you're somebody like Neil who's been proven and they know what he can do, then he will be appointed straight away.
Could you see him coming?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I don't know how he's getting on in his current job. I know they won a cup, didn't they, last season? Yeah. But you know, he lives in Glasgow, lives in the West End. I don't know his family situation, whether they're with him. I don't know. But I wouldn't be overly surprised if Neil, you know, is in for the job, but I have no idea if he is or not.
Well,
if you're asked your credentials,
that would be a big coup for Motherwell to get Neil Lennon. I mean, naturally, when it was first mentioned, I thought no chance. However, you know, if there is something contriving towards him getting it, I think Motherwell fans would certainly take that.
And you told me something. He was there as a young lad.
He was. I don't know if he'd signed or he played in the Motherwell youth team, but certainly when he was around 14 or 15 years of age. I think he may have played in the same team as Scott Leach. Right. When they were both kids, they could possibly be the same age. So I know he's been there as a kid.
You know that club better than anyone. How many games for Motherwell did you play?
400.
Over 400. And look at the crowd the other week, 3 weeks ago. Less than over 7,000 people. Yeah. It was magic. The pitch has been done. And I know I touched on it earlier. Kilmarnock Road, they paid the money, got Derek McInnes.
Yeah.
And if Motherwell could do that for Neil Lennon, this could transform the season.
Listen, if Motherwell thought they had an opportunity of getting Neil Lennon and they had to push the boat out a little bit, I would be no doubt that they would push the boat out for him. Now, we don't know anything more than anyone else. It's just the names come up and the conversations had about. So we're speaking about someone who's in a job, which sometimes can be disrespectful. But if you're asking me the question, would Neil Lennon be a good appointment for Motherwell? Absolutely would be.
They're not listening to us just now in Cyprus, but just the way John, I just looked at him and I thought, well, Neil Lennon, could that happen? I mean, he went to Hibs and did well for Hibs.
Very well for Hibs. Got them back into the top flight, didn't he?
Yeah. Okay. You heard it here first.
Well,
back to tonight then. Let's hear, John, what was your biggest European night? Ironically, I'm asking you for the Rangers fans in the buses and the cars. Special night. What's the night that you turned it round?
Oh, I can't remember. I can remember first coming, and the run to the UEFA Cup final was brilliant. We beat Blackburn at home. We had a 1-1 with Liverpool, and I think over the years, some of the scalps like AC Milan, Barcelona,
Juventus,
Shakhtar Donetsk, Juventus, and he scored a brilliant volley against Juventus one night. And the atmosphere, like it'll be tonight at Ibrox, the atmosphere at Celtic Park, under the lights, there is nothing like it. East End of Glasgow, and it's not a myth. People talk about it. The crowd does help. The crowd can get behind you and they can really push you on. You're frightened to make a mistake, So no, it's too many to actually say one.
The players,
there was many.
John will tell you, certainly the Celtic and Rangers players, you earn your reputation in nights like tonight. People remember you when something special happens and you're that guy that gets a winner, you're the guy that has that save or makes that tackle later on. And Conor Golson and Stephen Davis, and even though Stephen's not playing, they've been there before. Alan McGregor's been there before. They will be passing that message on to the players.
And the captain, James Tavernier, could be crucial.
Absolutely.
The goals he scored last season. Final word from the manager. This was him speaking after the game, the 2-0 win at the weekend. But his message here was about patience.
Because when you get impatient, you will make the wrong decisions. The execution wouldn't be the same when you're in a hurry. I've managed many games like this. Also played many games like this against a really tough opponent. In the end, we were happy with the 2 goals. Of course, the 2 strikers who are on the score sheet, Tom Lawrence and Robbie with the assists. Yeah, I'm really happy with the win.
When I heard that could be for tonight, couldn't it? Patience for the 50,000.
I said earlier, Paul, if it's 0-0 half time, I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst would be saying at half time, look, let's not panic, let's keep passing the ball, let's keep getting it wide. Tavernier, Barisic, who's got great delivery, let's get the ball wide, let's get it in the box. They've got good firepower on the bench to bring on if it's not happening in the first half an hour. But patience, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has just said that is key.
And then the hat, hopefully tomorrow, Stephen, against PSV or Monaco. Who do you think it's going to be? PSV or Monaco?
I would go for Monaco.
Oh, right. Okay, you're going for Monaco. John, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Craigs, same time. We'll see you next week as well. Tomorrow night, Peter Grant will be here. And Barry Ferguson, of course, who reckons Rangers are going to do it tonight in extra time. Joe Kilday is next after the news.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go! Service your existing car with us right now.
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.